Most people in Eastwell don't talk about the fire on Grayson Hill. Not because they've forgotten. No one forgets something like that, but because they remember it too well. They remember the silence that came before it, the strange stillness of the night, the way the air pressed down on them like a held breath. It was November 12th, 2016, a Saturday, cold and windless. The sea was quiet below the cliffs, and frost curled at the edges of window panes. At the top of the hill stood the Carter house, white siding, blue shutters, 2 stories high and full of warmth. Mark and Ellen Carter lived there with their children, 17-year-old Jacob and 9-year-old Emily. They were a quiet family, friendly, church-going, the kind of people you waved to on Sundays but never really knew. At 3:33 a.m., the house ignited. There was no explosion, no warning, just fire. One moment it was dark, and the next, the house bloomed into a tower of flame, so sudden and violent that neighbors swore they felt the heat from their beds. It wasn't natural. It didn't behave like any fire they'd seen before. The flames moved fast, too fast, leaping across walls like they were being pulled rather than spreading. Windows shattered outward, glass raining down onto the lawn. Beams cracked and buckled, the roof caving in with a groan like something exhaling its last breath. By the time the first 911 call was placed, the Carter home was already collapsing in on itself. They found Jacob in the backyard, barefoot, covered in soot. His eyes were wide and unfocused, staring at something beyond the reach of lights and sirens. His hands were shaking, but his voice, when it came, was cold and flat. "It wasn't the fire that killed them," he said. The rest of the family never made it out. Mark's body was found in what used to be the hallway. Ellen was upstairs. Emily had tried to hide in a closet. Her stuffed rabbit was melted into her hands. The fire had devoured everything except the pain. And Jacob somehow hadn't suffered a single burn. The investigation offered no comfort. There were no signs of a gas leak, no faulty wiring, no trace of accelerants, and every smoke detector in the house had been disabled. The batteries were missing, each one removed carefully, deliberately. "Deliberate tampering," the fire marshal said, but no one could say who had done it or why. At the hospital, Detective Sarah Whitman tried to question Jacob. He didn't cry. He didn't ask about his parents. He didn't mention his sister. He just sat still, staring at the corner of the room like he was waiting for something to step out of it. When she asked how he got out, Jacob said, "She let me go." "Who?" Whitman asked. He blinked once, slowly, then whispered, "The gray girl." He told her the girl had started appearing a few weeks before the fire. At first, just glimpses, out of the corner of his eye, or in the reflection of a darkened window. But then more often, standing in his doorway at night, watching him from the end of the hallway. Always silent, always still. Her skin was gray. Her hair hung black and wet around her face, and where her eyes should have been, there was nothing but empty sockets, dark holes that seemed to drink the light. Jacob said she never moved, not until one night when she came closer. When she finally spoke, her voice, he said, didn't sound human. It was like water running through gravel, like dirt being shoveled over a coffin. And what she said was this: "Give me one, or I'll take all." He thought it was a nightmare. He told no one. And then the fire came. He remembered the heat, not the fire's, but hers. The gray girl stood in the hallway as the walls ignited around her, untouched by flame, her gaze fixed on Jacob. She didn't chase him. She didn't speak. She only pointed to the door. So he ran. Behind him, he heard his sister scream. 2 weeks later, in the smoldering remains of the basement, an inspector uncovered a small metal lockbox, heat-warped but intact. Inside was a journal, Ellen Carter's. The final entry was dated November 11th. It read, "We didn't choose. She said she would. God forgive us. The Carter house is gone now. There's nothing left but a patch of uneven ground and a crooked tree that won't grow straight. Grass has covered the wounds, but the earth feels wrong there, cold even in summer. Some say they've seen a girl standing at the edge of the property, small, still, watching, skin like smoke, hair like seaweed, eyes gone. They say she waits, not for fire, not for blood. She waits for secrets, for guilt, for bargains broken. If you made it to the end, tell me, what part did you find the most horrifying? Comment below. And if you know someone who loves chilling stories like this, share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe for more, because some secrets don't stay buried.